In this episode of the Red and Gold Report, I'm catching you up on all the latest Kansas City Chiefs news, and especially we're going to be looking at the possibility that there could be a real competition at the important right tackle spot. So, first up in Chiefs news, first round draft selection George Karlaftis has signed his rookie contract. Now, I love that he made sure to be one of the first draft picks to sign this year because every year we see some draft pick just drag his feet on signing with his team and miss a lot of important offseason work. So good to go, George. In other Chiefs news, we have some very interesting updates about Chiefs fifth round pick Darion Kinnard, the offensive lineman out of Kentucky. Now, most teams and the pre-draft pundits, myself included, actually pegged Kinnard for a move inside to offensive guard after he was drafted. A lot of that was that even though Kinnard played right tackle almost exclusively in college, he's just such a massive human being that it looked like he might not have the foot speed and some other issues, technique, to stay at the right tackle spot where he played all 3 years of his years at Kentucky. Even the NFL itself had written a letter G, on Kinnard's draft card. That meant guard, offensive guard, right? But it looks like now that the Chiefs have a totally different plan. We now know that on draft day, this is really interesting, the Chiefs actually crossed out, it looks like in Sharpie, they crossed out the G and wrote a T on his draft card, meaning he was drafted as a tackle, even though most of the rest of the league had listed him as a guard. Even though officially on his draft card, the NFL assumed he was going to be a guard. And since draft day, we have heard both from a Chiefs scout and the Chiefs general manager, Brett Veach, that they actually intend to leave Kinnard at right tackle. Now, that's fascinating because while the Chiefs are completely set at guard, we have maybe the best guard tandem in the entire league, we really do need serious help at right tackle. Right now, Lucas Niang is set to start at right tackle, and while he played well at times in the run game last season, his pass protection had issues that led him to lose his starting job midway through the season. To make matters even worse, Niang may not actually be recovered totally from his patellar tendon injury by camp. So if Kinnard could actually stay at right tackle instead of being forced to play guard, that could give us the potential for a competition. And if Kinnard, a former All-American right tackle, this is no chump, he was an All-American right tackle. If he could play up to that billing, it could be the steal of the draft. And it could make the Chiefs offensive line the best in the league because, let's face it, right tackle is the only hole we have left on the offensive line. But before we get a little too ahead of ourselves, which I probably already have, there are some real reasons that the All-American Kinnard slipped down into the fifth round. And I see two of them. But here's the thing. Here's the positive thing. Both of these have the potential to be remedied and to give us maybe a new starting right tackle. Who knows? First, his foot speed was slow on tape. When you watch him on film, his size just engulfs defensive ends in the run game, but that same massive size really limited his pass sets in the passing game. But here's the thing. He's already on his way to fixing this. In college, he was listed as 345 pounds. And actually, if you watch him on film, he looks bigger at times. But he checked into the combine at 322 pounds. So he lost at least 23 pounds of bad weight. So my hope is that losing some serious bad weight is going to give him back some of the foot speed he needs to stay at right tackle instead of being forced to move into guard. The second reason for his slip in the draft was bad technique in pass protection. Elite run blocking, but his technique kind of stinks in pass protection. In pass protection, he didn't have great hand placement. His feet were sloppy. Overall, his technique wasn't there. But here's the thing. Now he's coming to the Chiefs where he's going to get pro coaching and where he's going to be around four other awesome pros who are some of the best offensive linemen in the league. Particularly what I think is interesting is Orlando Brown has overcome some of the same issues. Orlando Brown doesn't have the quickest feet because he's massive. Kinnard's massive. And so, maybe there could be some carryover where the coaches could take some of the things that they coach Orlando up on and bring that over into Kinnard. So if he commits himself to his craft, he has all the right people, he has the right situation to clean up this technique issue around him. So yes, there are some real reasons a guy with a third round grade who was an All-American slipped down into the fifth round. There are real reasons that much of the league had him pegged for a move inside to guard. But hey, if the team's going to leave him at right tackle, that need and his experience, well, they match. And I'm excited for that possibility. And we'll get our first look at him this weekend at the Chiefs as they conduct a rookie mini camp. And hey, real quick, if you want Chiefs news and insights and updates brought to you online each week, make sure you subscribe to the channel, the Red and Gold Report, and hit the little notification bell on YouTube. In other news, also exciting news of possibilities, the New York Football Giants are expected to release starting cornerback James Bradberry sometime very soon. Now, the Chiefs were rumored to be kicking the tires on a trade for Bradberry some weeks back. So if he's released, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs tried to sign him to a team-friendly deal. Now, Bradberry is a very big physical corner. And for years, Bradberry had just been knocking around the league as an okay starting corner until he broke out in 2020. And that season, he held opposing quarterbacks to a rating of only 70.1. Great season in coverage. But after a very disappointing year last year and a cap hit of $21.9 million this year, yeah, I think now that the draft has passed and the Giants are coming to grips with the fact that they couldn't trade him for a draft selection this year, I think they're going to cut him. I don't think he is going to make it onto the roster making that much money. And who knows, the Chiefs might sign him to keep bolstering this corner position that they've been so focused on lately. In the other news of the Chiefs Kingdom, the team seems to be really returning to trying to get starting left tackle Orlando Brown signed to a long-term extension deal. And I'm hopeful the deal will get done. But it's going to be hard deal to strike for a couple reasons. First problem in getting this deal done is that we really don't know where the market is on left tackles right now. What's the price of a good left tackle? Let me explain. In 2020, the Packers re-signed one of the league's best tackles, David Bakhtiari, to a deal averaging $23 million. Then, last year in 2021, the 49ers re-signed top offensive tackle, left tackle Trent Williams to a deal worth just slightly over $23 million. So you're thinking, okay, this is the way the market's going. It's going to go 23, maybe 24, 25 million for a starting left tackle. But then, interestingly, this offseason, the Dolphins only had to cough up $15 million a year for Teron Armstead, who is a great left tackle. So who in the world knows what the true value of a left tackle is right now? The Chiefs might be pointing to Armstead's deal in Miami, and Brown's agents might be pointing to Trent Williams and Bakhtiari's deals, or even wanting to beat those. And if that's the case, the two sides could be as much as $9 million apart, which makes things really hard to get a deal done. The other problem how to evaluate Brown is, do you evaluate him based on his potential or how he has played? How do you compensate him? On the one hand, Brown is a good pass blocker, and he has tons of potential still. He has massive size, and he's only 26 years old, so he has a lot of talent to continue to unlock. And I'm sure Brown's agent's pulling for him to be paid like an elite tackle because he has the potential to be that. But then on the other hand, Brown has not yet been elite. He was only graded as the 28th best offensive tackle in the NFL last season by PFF, and last season he allowed 4 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, 20 quarterback hurries, and 36 quarterback pressures. Those are okay, but those are not great numbers. They're not elite, get paid, back up the Brinks truck type of numbers. So I'm sure the team doesn't really want him to be paid as an elite tackle because statistically he just hasn't got there yet. But I'm sure his agent wants him to be because, well, agents are greedy, but also because he has the potential to get there. But what do What do you think? What would you do if you were the Chiefs? Would you give him the big contract because he has that potential? Or would you kind of keep trying to talk his agent down and maybe let him play on the franchise tag because he hasn't been elite? Yeah, leave me your comments in the comment section below. But my point is this: re signing Orlando Brown is not going to be a simple process. It's really not. And I expect it to take more time for the Chiefs. In other news, the Chiefs will not be playing in one of the international games this upcoming season in Mexico, England, or Germany. A lot of people had thought they were going to play a game in Germany, so this is a bit of a surprise, but it is great news. Behind the scenes, coaches and players in the NFL, they hate international games. I mean, back in the day, I remember with the Chiefs, they played a game. I think it was a preseason game in the 90s in Mexico City. And when my dad got home from coaching the game, all he wanted to talk about was how most of the team and coaches got Montezuma's revenge and how they were super sick and it was just like the worst thing ever. And those European games, they're fun to watch, but they can be hard too because of all the jet lag. And then you're trying to wake up and get ready for the next game after that one. I can't find it, but let me know if you can find a win-loss record for all NFL teams returning from international games and whether it affects their win percentage in the following week. I would imagine it does a little bit. So, yeah, it's good news in a strange way that the Chiefs, well, they won't have one of those pesky international games next season. In other news, former Clemson wide receiver and top undrafted free agent Justyn Ross has been medically cleared. If you remember from a previous video, Ross dealt with both a terrible neck condition and a broken foot. So to hear that he is medically cleared by the Chiefs is awesome news. And I'm really excited to see him start running around with the other rookies at rookie minicamp. In other news, the Chiefs have invited Frank Clark's brother, Alabama State defensive tackle Christian Clark, to minicamp. Hopefully, Christian has better luck than his brother finding legal off-field hobbies. And in other news, Brett Veach has recently firmly stated the Chiefs would like to have defensive end Melvin Ingram back on the roster, which the longer he goes unsigned by other teams, the more his price is going to come down for us. So I hope it happens. I would love to see Melvin Ingram and George Karlaftis at the two starting defensive end positions. I think that would be a big upgrade over what we went into last season with. In other news, the Chiefs have released 6 players, including tight end Josh Peterson, the son of former assistant coach Doug Peterson. The moves were just made to clear the roster space for adding all of these undrafted free agents the Chiefs have been signing. So, well, that about does it for me, but what do you think? Do you think Kinnard should play tackle and compete for the starting right tackle spot, or do you think the Chiefs should bump him into guard? What would you pay Orlando Brown if you were the GM? And do you want Ingram to be back at defensive end, signed back with the Chiefs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!